Hi, it's Xavier, and today we're going to reveal just how well my $50 Azalea Vesuvian Etruscan challenge went, because I don't think any of you have seen it since I put it together. But to see just how good it is, you really are going to have to watch on. Okay, it's Xavier. I'm at the patio end of the garden, and I've probably got an hour before the rain throws itself down, and I realised that I haven't updated you on this Azalea $50 challenge. I'm sure I did it mid-June, July. It was in the early stages of summer, and I think we all had a lot of concerns about whether I left it a bit late to be doing this sort of work. If I remember right, I was quite heavy-handed on the pruning, but all my dwarf azaleas have been flowering like you wouldn't believe, so I thought it was only fair that I show you just how good this is. So you ready? On the count of three. 3, 2, 1. That doesn't surprise me. I haven't actually pulled it out, but yeah. It didn't make it at all, and for a while, I was playing around with the idea of doing some silly thing on it, but these failures can help us learn a few things. And I think I said in some of my later azalea pruning videos, I think it's called Pruning the Peter Chan Way, I made a point that sometimes we overlook the fact that although the books and things often say that you can repot your azaleas in post-flowering when the heat's starting to come on, that's Japan, and in Japan they have slightly different temperatures than us, and they certainly have a lot of humidity, the monsoony weather or whatever. Either way, we don't repot our azaleas that late into the year, so I definitely take the firm assumption that I potted those far too late. I took off far too many roots, and as you'll see, there was a few other things that I compounded to make it even worse. So we're going to deconstruct this and talk about what went wrong, and then you know what? We're then going to alter it. I've got some Satsuki Azalea Cuttings which I've been meaning to replant. They're not in flower, but they're nice and healthy, and I think they will do perfect for my updated and rejuvenated Vesuvian Etruscan project. I can't call it a challenge anymore because I think we all know I failed the challenge. But hey, if you learn something, that's even better. So let's crack on and break this thing down, shall we? Alright, so the first thing that went wrong, and I know there's someone, and hopefully their name will come up, mention it in the comments when I did it, and it really was about how much actual growing room, drainage room there was in this Etruscan style bottle. And I didn't really consider it as much as I should have. In fact, I didn't consider it at all. I was taken by the bottle. Worse, I made it even worse. I thought if I put sphagnum moss at the tops, that will aid growth. And what actually happened is it was difficult to water in the first place. We had loads of heat. The sphagnum dried out and nothing got in there. So they just dried out and died. It had that one little hole on the bottom just there, which was never going to be enough. Well, it might have been enough if I'd used slightly different soil and done it earlier in the year and not taken off so many roots, but I did all the wrong things. So, I mean, later in the year, while it was still vaguely alive, I actually drilled a second hole here. As a result of a comment that one of my subscribers made, I want to say a big thank you, and I can't remember right now, but I'm sure it's come up about now. She did suggest that this lovely Etruscan pot I use for the azalea hasn't got any particular good drainage, especially if it's at an angle. So I've put one in the back there, but I'm just using a straightforward diamond tipped circular one, and that's what I'm doing. And there's no hurry when you're dealing with pottery or stuff like that. What you don't want to do is the pot to crack. So now we've got 2 drainage points plus the one here so that I can put it on the angle. I'm not going to give you a sneak preview of where it is. We've got some buds up there that seem to be growing, but Clearly drainage was an issue with this one, so I have actually done that measure now, and I will probably put some more proper bonsai soil in the actual circular dish. But it was a little too little, a little too late. If we pull this thing apart, let's actually, okay. So the sphagnum had totally and utterly dried around it, and it's been like this for a while, but it was like this before Christmas. There was no growth. They were the same straight roots that I left it with, so there was nothing that grew from that. It was clear it was a goner. Again, the sphagnum moss wasn't used in the right way. I jammed 3 more in here. There's been no root growth. No root growth, and no root growth. I did use a relatively friable mixture, and there was actually Kanuma in it, but I'd already put it on the back foot by starting so late in the year, and on top of that I did a major root prune, and then I tried to put 4 trees into a very, very small pot that just wasn't set up for it. So we'll empty that, and we'll have to think about what we can do to improve that. Okay, so I still love the pot. And so what was the next contributing factor? So what we've had wrong time of the year, too much root removal, poor percolation with the pot I selected, and on top of that I put it in this display dish, and then surrounded it with these sort of volcanic rocks and everything. And what happened is we had a couple of days where it rained quite heavily. It does that in this country sometimes, funny enough. And this made a great swimming pool. So, unbeknownst to me, because it was hidden by all this lava rock, there was a level of water, basically a centimetre of water in the bottom of this, for most of the latter part of the year. And granted, it was already struggling, but if any roots had actually managed to get down from the bottom of this, which I highly doubt, they got immediately drowned by what was in there and rotted. If I want this to work, I need to rechange and radicalize the way I'm going to approach this. And hopefully, that's what we're going to do today. We'll start to do it today anyway. And the first thing I'm going to do is put some holes in the bottom of this so that we can actually get some drainage through this pot, because I actually want to use this as part of the planting as well. Because I think in my original design I did actually put some cuttings either side of the of this pot, but they had no hope because there was no drainage for a start. I know that can work to a degree. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the holes across there. Got James's drill with a diamond tip circular end on it, which is what we use for putting holes in the bottom of these ceramic pots. So, and then I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm going to reconstruct and redesign this so it stays true to its original original idea, but it's much more sustainable for the future. So hopefully this will work. Now with all these things, if you go straight on, the risk is it's going to go around and round and round. So what you actually want to do is start at an edge, hopefully. Hole number 1. I'll probably do 2 more. That's the second one done. We now have definitely a bit of rain coming down, so I'm going to stop for now. I'll be putting a couple more holes in there, and when you come back, that'll all be done. Okay, 5 hours have passed and a pile of rain. In the meantime, I did manage to get some holes there. Probably could have done a better job at spacing them, but I was looking at the way this indented, and do you know what? It was raining so hard I didn't really care. I just wanted to get some holes in there. I imagine that may be where the bulk of the planting will be. A lot more of a hole in there, as you can see, so we'll see how that works. I may or may not put something on the end. I may just have one big tree there, and then have that sitting in there. Now I had that great big heavy rock, and while I was going out I was looking for some just peat, because I wanted to try and do some fine peat and make some muck up. I know Tony's got a great formula there, but traditionally I'm looking at some peat base, and you mix it in with sphagnum moss and a bit of water. So I've got to still look at that. Do you know what I found? I went to the aquarium section, and I was trying to find something that was like broken ruins or something that could represent some Pompeii scene. And I've got a funny feeling this is actually half the Colosseum, but there was something about it. I looked at it and I thought, I wonder if I could certainly use that to rest the bottle on. So, you know, something. Anyway, so I'm going to have a jiggle with that, but I'm also going to be using the lava, but rather than just leaving it in place, what I want to do is muck about with a bit of epoxy and stick them together and see if I can't actually create a stable sort of situation with rocks stuck around it that allow me to actually lift it on and off. I'm going to have a little play with that to see if it works before I do any filming, but yeah, and whether that's a case of actually having that also on a base so that it actually sits on the lip a bit better. I'll have a little look around and then come back to you when I've had a play with that. Right, so the next stage is to get the replacement azaleas, and I'm going to be using my Satsuki Azalea Cuttings. So we're going to quickly get those out. Now the key here, what I don't want to do is upset the roots too much. Now obviously, in terms of the original deal, is it's got to be under $50. Well, they're cuttings, they're free. Very fine network of roots, that's lovely. Again, another fine network of roots I can see on this. Okay, so we're back. We've got the tray out there, the bowl that I'm using. I've just put a thin layer of Kanuma and sphagnum in there, and I've got to try and decide how I want to do this. Obviously that was part of the original design, so we still want to have that coming up. I'm not sure whether I'm going to have anything coming out of it though this time, but hopefully I should be able to set it up on this. So it's still keeping with the sort of an old Pompeian ruins. I'm not quite sure we're quite there with that, but set with that. That needs to be filled up, and I think what I'm going to do. Okay. So that we've got more room on this. Now what I don't know is how well it's going to bake there. going to use lots of bits of lava rock. Originally I was looking at ways of actually gluing the rocks into place already, and I'm sure I could have done it, but I think the key is if I give it enough growing room, what it'll do is it'll form a nice root ball together over a year or so, and then I'll be able to probably muck about with it a lot better. But obviously the azaleas, the flowers are supposed to represent the revival, so post Vesuvius eruption. You've got the ruins, the wreckage of an old gourd. I know the scale's wrong, but it's all about impressions, isn't it? Let's be honest. Get this one up. I think we probably could actually. So what we're going to do, and obviously with the hole at the bottom a lot bigger, and also that drainage hole there being bigger, should be a lot more effective at soil drainage. What I'm going to do is continue to tease all that in. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely imagination, and I want to try to stay true to the keeping of the original design, which is obviously that coming up the slope of a mountain. Lots of lava's come down, the lava's dried off, and then from that new life comes. What we do need to make sure we've got there is some good moss protection on there, which will be the next thing I do. Need something there, I think. What have we got? Do we need any more rocks? Before anyone says it or thinks it, yes, I know the deconstruction of something like this could be quite interesting in a few more years. Now it goes without saying, this will go in the greenhouse, certainly for the next 3 or 4 weeks. I'm not even going to attempt to try and wire anything or cut anything. I'll leave as is. Just wondering if that's going to be the front, so we walk into this sort of forest of azalea bushes. Just wondering whether we've got something that can sit there. Let's have a little look around. Okay, so in true Etruscan style, we're going to put some English moss and all those sort of things that really do not go with this, but I want to try and recognise that last time in my attempt to try and replicate a dry volcanic landscape, I didn't recognise the fact that not a lot lives in that, so I've got to create an oasis style around these and protect these roots. So I've got myself some moss, and then I've got some little features there. But the first thing to do is try get a nice little mossed up area around here. I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to keep this safe. And obviously we've got different sorts of moss as well, because that's what always happens on the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. Many a time I've gone climbing that mountain and found some classic English mosses. Imagine that, if that just slowly grows up, that could be quite interesting actually. Okay, more moss. Got a fisherman at the end there. And yes, moss, fresh moss and lava rocks, they always go together well, I think. The good thing about the Kanuma is because of this golden brown colour, we could sort of take ourselves and imagine it's like great big grains of sand that have congealed together after the heat of the volcano. Still doesn't explain how the rest of this grew. Right. So hopefully what I've been able to do is create a barrier so that the roots beneath there actually get a chance to survive and thrive. The moss, I'll see how long it lasts there. Again, the idea is to keep the moisture in that soil. Don't know where the front is, to be honest. I think at this stage because that's the other thing obviously we always get in on Vesuvius is turtles. I've seen quite a lot of turtles there when I was in the Navy. Keep them wet. Okay, I'm going to clean up and then we'll give you a final swing on it. Right, it's been a lot of fun making this. Hopefully this is going to be an awful lot more sustainable than the first effort. We're now still only in the middle third week of April, so it's still pretty good time to be potting these. I didn't muck about with the roots at all, and I haven't taken any foliage off either. So it's just a case of them establishing themselves beyond the soil that they're already in. I've put the protective nature of the lava rocks, and the lava is to go with the theme of a Vesuvian eruption. We've got the Etruscan pot. And then we've got the famous Nepalese Italian turtles, because they happen all the time. Hey, it's all up here. There's a lot up there which we don't know about, isn't there? So I'll give it a spin and then leave you to comment on what you think. And in terms of how the challenge gone, well, clearly my challenge failed last year, probably failed the moment I started planting it up and cutting all those roots off. Valuable lessons learnt there. A plant, Azalea, does actually need a few roots to survive, and it needs a lot of protection. It didn't have drainage. Every mistake you could make, I made it. So if you want to have a look at a video at how not to do stuff in the early July, because I think I actually did that July the 10th or something. It was quite late for the $50 challenge, to be honest. I should have just waited. Then that's a good learning one. In fact, there's the video up there. But now we spin this. I mean, that could be a front there. Well, there's fronts all over the place. Got a lot of front, this has. Even down to our little fisherman. So what do you think? That's the $50 challenge, still well within the $50. Take two. Now hopefully this will be definitely sustainable, and I don't need to pull that apart for a couple of years at least. It'd be nice to hear how everyone else's challenges are going, and I'm sure they'll be coming through at different stages. But from Xavier, baking beneath the hot April sun, thanks for taking the time to watch. Wish you all the best, happy bonsaiing, God bless, cheers.